In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this wonder twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as tomorrow's legends. And now, here are your hosts, the Scarlet Speedster himself, the Flash, and the Maid of Mischief, Harley Quinn.
One small step for man, one giant step for Ray and the Legends.
I like it.
Oh, welcome everybody to Season 2, Episode 14 of Legends of Tomorrow. I am the Flash.
And I'm Harley Quinn.
And you're with us on Tomorrow's Legends. This episode actually was called Moonshot. I forgot to throw that in there.
Yes, Moonshot. Which I was still trying to figure out the meaning behind the name other than the obvious, but I didn't get anything else.
No, other than it was a shot at the moon, I really don't know if there's anything behind that.
Yeah, kind of like they kind of like slingshot around it, moonshot, slingshot. I don't know, that's all I got, but I liked the title. It sounded cool.
All right, Harley. Well, before we get to anything this week, last week we got to dedicate the episode to two people. This week we need to do another special dedication. This episode of Tomorrow's Legends is fully with tons of love and appreciation dedicated to Mr. Carl, CJ Thunder, Mr. No Feedback.
Yay! Thank you so much. We really appreciate all of your support and emotional support as well all through this process.
Yeah, he's been backing us behind the scenes quite a bit. We've become friends with him, and he has gone ahead and generously donated to our Patreon page, and we cannot thank him enough. So, Carl, this one's for you, buddy.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
Well, what did you think of this episode? Did you like it?
I actually did like this episode. I gave it 9 distracting ditties. And because I'm not going to lie, that was probably one of my favorite scenes of the entire episode. But I thought they're kind of continuing to knock it out of the park. There's a lot happening in this episode, but I felt that it worked really well. I mean, to the writers and directors' credit, it flowed really well for me. I kind of knocked it down a point for some science nitpicks that I have, but
of course you did.
I know, of course I did. But overall, I mean, it was a mission in space, and there was lots of stuff in space, and they really did a good job with probably, I would say, like 90% of the science. It was pretty believable. There's just a couple of nitpicks that I have. One is definitely very science related. Another is kind of character related. So,
okay. Cool.
What did you think of this episode?
Well, I think this is going to be the first one this season we are not so eye to eye on. And it's not that I didn't like it. Okay, so I rated it 7 lunar steps. I'm not sure if that's exactly how many steps Ray took to get to the flag. I'd be kind of curious if that's what it was, but
that'd be fun.
I don't, we're on such a roll, and I don't know, I felt like they kind of maybe dropped the space ball a little bit here, or rather let it bounce a bit. I'm not sure. I just didn't find this episode as gripping for me this time. It just didn't have me on the edge of my seat. The drama and the tension and the kind of moments. I just found it kind of lacked them this time. So I don't know. I guess I can't expect them to deliver every week. Can I? Maybe. I don't know. They were doing so well, so I was hoping for it, but. Anyway, it was decent. It just wasn't the slam bam holy our show rocks episode like the last few weeks have been. So that's all I got.
All right. Well, Do we have? I know we don't have any polls this week.
No, I have to apologize for everyone. I'm coming off of being rather sick. I had strep throat over the weekend, and it's turned into a nasty cough. So I'm really, really trying to cover it up. If you hear my voice a bit off, guys, I apologize. I will definitely kill the volume anytime I feel an attack coming on. But
No.
Just due to that, I completely forgot about getting onto our Facebook page and putting up the new poll. So we'll just take a week off from it, and I'll come back to it. Don't worry.
That's understandable. We'll forgive you.
Okay. What about news, though? Do we have any little bit of news coming up you wanted to talk about?
Well, I just pulled the air dates and the episode titles for the rest of the season, if that's something you want to hear about.
Sure. Give me 1 sec. Here we go.
Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe.
I just had to get that in.
I know. It's a great clip. I like it.
Because you've gathered together all the news clips you could find.
I know. So because we're gearing up for the end of the season, the only news out there other than the air dates and episode titles I'm going to talk about are a lot of spoilers of who's showing up when and all these sorts of things. So I'm definitely trying to avoid like specific outright spoilers.
Good. Well, we don't want to know that.
Exactly. So, but there hasn't been any other news really. So what we have though is our next 3 episodes are going to air there in the next 3 weeks. There's no more breaks. So episode 15 is called The Fellowship of the Sphere.
Yes.
Which I'm so excited about. I think you're excited too.
Yeah, we talked about it last time when we found out the name of that. I am so hoping they go somewhere Lord of the Rings with that. I mean, come on, it's the name.
I think they have to. I think that's why it would be called Fellowship of the Spear. So I'm pretty excited about that. And that airs next week, March 21st, 2017. And then episode 16 is the week after that. And that is entitled Doom World.
Ooh.
I know.
What could that mean?
I know. I have no idea, but I'm pretty excited about it. It sounds like it's going to be more Legion focused, possibly.
Yeah, I would guess so with that name. Sure. Maybe
That's all I got.
Maybe they temporarily take over the world at that moment. Who knows? Or they get the entire spear together and they're about to rewrite reality before our team gets there.
That could be bad.
Yeah, could be bad.
Well, that one airs on March 28th, 2017. And then the final episode of this season, season 2 of Legends of Tomorrow, is Aruba.
What is that? Other than a tropical island, what could that title imply?
I have absolutely no idea. I saw this title and I was like, what? Aruba? I have no idea. So maybe in the next couple of episodes we'll get some more hints as to what that might mean. But the finale will air on April 4th, 2017.
Oh, I don't want that to happen yet. We're having so much fun this year. Come on.
I know. Well, we got more episodes than we were anticipating. We got 5 more? So
True. And knowing that they got a season 3, they were probably able to properly write a cliffhanger finale is what I'm guessing. So
probably.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into our show. What are we going to start with this week?
Well, I just noticed that it was Mick's intro again, and it still made me laugh, so I just wanted to call it out.
Well, of course, it made me laugh too, but as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, it's Mick, he's doing it again, and I was expecting it to change just a little bit, and no, it was exactly the same.
I know. I think all the intros, if they reuse them, they're still the same, but it was still really funny.
It was.
All right. Cool. Well, kind of the first point that I had to talk about, and these are pretty much going to go in chronological order because the episode did pretty much flow along chronologically, even though we have like different sets of teams that we'll end up talking about. Mm-hmm. But kind of the first place we go is we find out that Commander Steele was hidden in 1965. And so I liked how they did the editing here because we get to see Rip basically leave him there. And he gives him the whole little speech, which we can talk about in a second. And then just after he leaves, the legends like come right in. Like it's like as soon as past Rip leaves, future Rip and everybody else comes in. I just really like the way they edited it.
It was
That
really
cool.
cool. Yeah. It looked like such a smooth transition that I almost think there wasn't an edit there because they had so many people walking around. So
Rip was in 2 different costumes. But.
Yeah, so it had to be just some magic, editing magic behind the scenes because I think it was one seamless scene, and they just threw him at the top. I don't know. Even with my video editing background, I was still like, whoa, that was cool. That was seamless. That was like a magician's trick.
Yeah, it was really well done, and so I just wanted to call that out because I thought that was a very cool way to edit it.
Mm-hmm.
But what Rip says to Henry as he leaves him, he says, "The family's sacrifice might just save the world." And he was, in this instance, referring to Henry's family having to think that he's dead and he has to give up make that sacrifice of not being able to raise his son. Mm-hmm. But I think this could also refer to what ultimately happened to Rip's family, because in the end they had to die basically sacrificing themselves so that Rip could save the world, as it turns out, from both Vandal Savage and the Time Masters.
Yeah, that's true.
So at this point in time, I mean, I guess we're still assuming that Rip and his family hasn't died. I'm still trying to piece together the timeline of when Rip has the Spear of Destiny, but I think based on information we learned from Henry throughout the episode, that his family still has to be alive.
Whose family?
Rip's family. Sorry.
You think so?
At the past point, yeah, when he drops him off. Because it seems like it's news to Henry later in the episode when Nate tells him that Rip doesn't have a family anymore.
Oh, you're saying that Commander Steele doesn't know that Rip's family is gone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think maybe like when Rip drops them off, that his family hasn't died yet, possibly. But I don't.
Well, no, this is because time travel is so tricky. I still think this is all after. Well, God, yeah, because season 1 was he plucked him from 2016 to go all through time chasing Vandal Savage, stopping him from changing history. Mm-hmm. But part of that history was when he went back to 1965 to grab the Justice Society and help them hide the spear. So,
did he do that during season 1? Or did he do it prior to? That's what I'm still trying to figure out.
Wow. Boy, oh great Legendaires. Can you help us pick this one apart? Because it's like that whole first season was, I really have to try to think out loud about this one. As we're just wasting airtime here. Because he goes back to 1965 to break the spear apart. I still think this mission, did it take place before 2016? I guess what it comes down to is his family was murdered slightly in the future, were they not?
Yeah, no, they were. Yeah, that's true.
Right.
They were murdered in our future, but his past. We're back to this again.
Yeah, because, we're only assuming that Rip is originally from the far future. That's his timeline.
Yeah.
And he meets, I can't remember his wife's name, but he meets her in that timeline, and then they go back in time to raise a family and all that kind of stuff. And that's the, whatever year that was, 2060 something.
Yeah.
Where Vandal eventually takes over the world and destroys it, and he just happens to run into Rip's wife and son and kills them there. So that all happened in the future, which I still think happened before one of Rip's time traveling missions leads him to the spear, and he has to break the spear apart, and the only way to do that is go find the Justice Society and get them to help him. That's where I'm going. That's what I've just deduced. I still think this all happens after everything happened with his family and Vandal Savage.
Okay. All right. Well, I am in the camp of it happened before. I don't know that we'll get an answer, but it is fascinating to discuss.
Well, can you give an explanation why you think it happened before? Just like I worked my brain through.
Well, mine's not quite as, I don't want to say complicated because it's not that it was complicated, but as looped into time travel. I think that since Henry thought and assumed that Rip's family was alive, that at the point that he met Rip to break apart, save the spear and then break it apart and kind of safekeep it, I think that his family was still alive based on that kind of information, because he seemed very surprised when he learned that Rip didn't have a family anymore. So that was kind of why I was thinking this mission might have occurred just before he got back to realize that Vandal Savage had murdered his family.
Okay, well, we're on opposite sides. Let's throw this to a vote. We can even make that a poll, maybe. And let's bring it to our listeners. What side do they want to take on that?
Yeah. There's some comments out on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Or we can put up a poll, or either way, if we forget to put up a poll, put some comments on the Facebook page.
Yeah, like so we could just start a new discussion thread and see what people think in there, because that'll give them space to actually write their thoughts down and not just a yes or no answer.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. What where are we going to go from there?
Oh, yeah. Well, so this next kind of couple of scenes we get, I like the new team dynamic. I mean, Rip, he has no idea like how well they kind of are functioning together. And so it was kind of nice to actually see the team function more like a well-oiled machine with less bickering, which I guess we've been getting the last couple of episodes. But they went ahead and just did their thing like they normally do, and kind of came to the conclusion that Henry had to be working for NASA. And I just totally love that they did that without Rip, because that's just their dynamic and that's how they've been doing things all along. And they came to that conclusion really pretty quickly.
Yeah, and even like Rip walks in after he's like, "What? You figured it out already?" Because he was like, "I think I know," but they already had the answers. So
yeah, exactly. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I also found it very funny as he's about to. Rip he like steps up like kind of near the captain's chair, and he's like, "Well, I think we should." And Sarah's like, "Infiltrate NASA." Just totally like bulldozes over him and like basically asserts herself as the captain. So I kind of loved that.
Which kind of answers what we were minorly nitpicking about last week, is like, who's going to be captain? What's going on? Like we weren't sure. So that kind of clearly answered that question right off the bat, that Sara is still a captain. She's taken lead, and Rip is going to basically have to figure out where he fits.
Yeah, because he doesn't really feel like he's fitting in at all.
Well, no, it doesn't even feel it to us as a viewer. You can tell he's kind of out of place.
Yeah, and I liked that. I liked that they acknowledged it. I thought it worked very well, because if he fit in seamlessly, I don't think it would have worked as well. It would have been less believable.
No, because he's missed so much, and he's missed the team gelling like they have. So yeah, he shouldn't fit in. It would be weird if he did.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, so they've come up with this plan that they're going to infiltrate NASA, which is amusing. I like that their first go-to is always to infiltrate a government organization.
Yeah.
But were you surprised that when Rip walked right up to Henry, that Henry just completely slugged him?
Yep, because I thought they were kind of comrades in a sense, and him seeing Rip again, he might immediately think, "Oh, something's up, something I can get involved with," or "Hey, old buddy," but he wasn't happy to see him at all.
No, like he just flat out punches him in the face. I was like, "Whoa, that's not the reaction I was expecting." Nope. I was expecting confusion. What are you doing here? Why are you back? But no, he just straight up punches him in the face. All right.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, so of course they kind of get Rip. I don't know, was he locked? It looked like he was locked in an interrogation room, but they're at NASA, so I don't think that exists.
Yeah, who knows what it was.
Yeah, so they locked him up somewhere so that the rest of the team can come and join them and they can have this big discussion. But did we call last week that the spear fragment would be hidden in the flag on the moon? Or did we just say it was on the moon?
No, I think I did come up with that.
I thought so. I don't remember which one of us said it. Either I was like, either you said it or I thought it or both.
I believe I said it. We were guessing. Is it on the moon? Well, where could it be on the moon? And I'm pretty sure I said is it in the flag? In the flag.
It's the only place it could be.
I'm pretty sure. So let's just high five, fist pump each other there, because
yeah,
that was awesome. Yeah,
that was totally awesome. Because he during that whole scene, you know, he starts talking about it. And I love the quotes that they have there. And he's like, well, you couldn't hide it anywhere on Earth. And then you see over his shoulder, see Neil Armstrong with the flag. And I was like, there it is.
Yep,
that's
exactly.
awesome.
Because where else can it go? There was no other, because they didn't leave anything else on the moon. So
no, it was just fantastic. I loved that. And I loved that it kind of like goes like you see it over in the background and then it just kind of pans in over his shoulder or zooms in over his shoulder. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I liked a lot of the editing in this episode. I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, no, they had some pretty cool sequences, the way they put them together, for sure. Yeah.
Now, this was cool because as they're talking about the moon, they're talking about the Apollo 13 mission and how it's supposed to go almost pretty terribly wrong. And for once, our aberration was something that was actually going right in history.
Yeah, no oxygen tank mishaps or whatever it was that initially caused the problems. Yeah, it was just going smooth.
Yeah, apparently. It was a quote unquote textbook mission. I was like, what? No, that's not supposed to happen.
Until, of course, our legends get their hands on it, then, you know.
Right, of course. Yeah. Then something crazy goes down.
I'm going to have to watch Apollo 13 again. That's a long time ago, that Tom Hanks and Kevin Bacon movie. I remember really, really enjoying it. I'm going to have to go back and watch that one again.
Yeah, I remember it being a good movie, but I haven't seen it in a long time either. But I did kind of pull up some information, and I'll put this out on our blog post too, just from the National Air and Space Museum.
Okay. On
the Apollo 13 mission. So the link's out there. It just gives like a little quick summary of events and like some facts and images from the mission, which I thought was pretty cool because I'm a giant space nerd. So for those of you out there that are as well, you can go check out our blog post and read some more information on Apollo 13. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, good job.
All right. Well, this is another one of those things where I liked the way that they did the editing because they cut immediately to, I think the actual spaceship, it was called the Odyssey, right? It's the Apollo 13 mission. But
yeah, that's not the name of the ship. I think
the ship was the Odyssey. I think that's what they referred to. I should probably look it up in this article.
Yeah, because this is the 13th mission of Apollo, though, so maybe it is the Apollo. I don't know.
Anyway, so they cut into the ship, and they're just stating that they were heading towards the dark side of the moon, where, of course, they lose communications, and we learned that that's going to be for 28 minutes. Well, this is where Mr. Eobard Thawne makes his appearance. Apparently, he stole Jack Swigert's identity.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. Or not cool. I don't know. I had to refresh my memory on how he was actually able to do this without killing people.
Well, it's a new device, wasn't it, that he had?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he could just kind of vibrate his face to change.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. Because the last I remembered of it, I was like, I completely forgotten that he had done this in the Chicago way for whatever reason. That he actually, he stole Stein's appearance. I don't know why. It totally left my memory. And so in that episode is when he said, "Oh, I've made the device non-lethal. It's just really painful," or whatever.
Yep.
And so I went and looked it up to double check because I was like, did they just kill an astronaut? I'm pretty sure that would be a huge aberration. But no, he just momentarily stole his identity.
Which, I mean, I think people were asking on the Facebook page. I saw, like, where is Swigert? What happened to him? Like, didn't anybody find him? Because obviously he's still back on Earth
Yeah.
somewhere. So,
I don't know. He must have hidden him well. I don't know. He's
Yeah.
going to have to have knocked him out for a long period of time.
Or just sped him off somewhere real quick and,
But that's true.
yeah.
He could have hidden him anywhere, literally.
Right. But then we got a neat little treat when we find Stein and Jax and Rory kind of going undercover as British, flight controllers. And we hear Jax, Frank I never know how to pronounce his last name. Dramé?
I think it's Jermaine.
Dramé. We hear him speak in his native tongue, his actual accent. That's what he sounds like. I don't know if everybody knows that he is British.
Yeah.
So,
Isn't that crazy? I loved that.
so it really shows how well he disguises that and brings out his American accent. Because, man, as soon as you hear him speak, it's like, whoa, holy, that's different.
Oh, yeah. It was like night and day. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But Dominic Purcell, he was raised in Australia, and I can always hear his Australian accent coming through in a lot of the things that he says. But I found a fun fact about these three actors who were posing as British flight controllers.
Okay, what's the fun fact?
The fun fact, well, we know Franz Germain is very British, and he is from London.
Mm-hmm.
Dominic Purcell, although raised in Australia, was also born in London. And Victor Garber did not know he is a fellow Canadian, Martin.
Fellow of mine, yes.
Yeah. Apparently he was born in London, Ontario. So they're all three born in London.
In London, which is pretty cool. Yes, London, Ontario. It's like, it's about half an hour west of Toronto. So.
Okay. I know where Toronto. I've been to Toronto.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought that was really funny. It's kind of an amusing tidbit to me because I was like, I wonder why. Because I knew that Franz Germain was British. I was like, I know Dominic Purcell. I think he's Australian, but I wasn't sure. So I looked it up. And then when I saw that, I was like, now I'm going to look up Victor Garber. And so anyway, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, fun fact. All three born in London and all three are undercover as British agents. So that's kind of cool. But funny, kind of an odd thing, though, with Mick, that he was really a non-factor in this episode.
I know. I was kind of disappointed. He had a couple little funny lines, but...
And that was it, really, yeah.
Yeah, for getting the intro, he really didn't do much in this episode.
No, so I wonder if that's why they gave him the intro, because it's like, well, you kind of took a backseat to this, to the rest of the crew this time, which is, I guess, fair enough, because he's been front and center in a couple episodes, too, so...
He has, yeah. I mean, it's just inevitable that that's going to happen when you have such a big cast. So.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah. But Ray got quite a bit more time. So that was kind of nice. I mean, yeah.
He had a lot of time last episode, too, so.
I know. That's why I was kind of surprised we spent so much time with him this episode. But I really enjoyed him and Thawne together.
Yes, yeah. There was well, we'll get into those. There's a couple really good scenes and lines of dialogue between the two of them.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, the first one, do you want to just kind of dig into this first one when Ray gets trapped in the lunar module?
Yeah.
All right. So, and I'm not going to lie, this is going to come up later in my nitpick. Okay. Part of it. But Ray, so he's going over to the lunar module to check out what's going on because he's the only one of them that can discreetly fly through space.
Yeah.
And so he goes in there. He's supposed to be tiny, like tiny. And he figures out that Thawne is there. And so he follows him up into the lunar module because that seems like a great idea.
Well, yeah.
But Thawne discovers him flying around up there. He's supposed to stay super small and out of sight, but
he's
Thawne,
like the size of a hand, basically.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the size of an atom, is he not?
Yeah, well, pretty small at least anyway, yeah. So, yeah, he did not shrink down small enough to be very stealthy. So I don't know if size affects the amount of distance he can cover. Like, the smaller he gets, does it take longer for him to fly around? So maybe that comes into play.
Ooh, possibly.
Yeah.
I like that. That would help me with that a little bit. But anyway, so he gets trapped up there, which is what he was not supposed to be doing. But I really enjoyed this fight in space. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, the no gravity fight.
Yeah, it was well done, I thought. I mean, you could see that when they pushed off of each other, they actually pushed away from each other, and they had to kind of bounce off of the walls of the module to kind of get back to one another. So I thought it was well done. I have no idea how they filmed it, but it was done well.
Well, I was just going to say, for all we know, they could have been in a zero gravity little chamber to film that scene, because I mean, those things are readily available.
Oh, are they? That's cool.
Yeah, like there's been enough movies where they create a zero gravity chamber or scene to film a scene for a movie, so maybe they actually used one of those.
That'd be cool. It looked really real to me.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, it did. In such a small space too. I think it would have been really hard to use a lot of cables and stuff. So I'm just guessing. Who knows? Maybe nowadays they got a lot of pretty cool cable tech that they were able to do it. But yeah, no, it looked good.
Yeah, it did look good. I liked their fight, and which of course disengages the ship from the lunar module from the command module. So that's not what you want.
But before you move on too far, I mean, we got a little tidbit of information about Thawne that I think was extremely interesting and eyebrow raising.
Yes.
He loses his super speed without gravity.
He does indeed,
so,
which I think makes perfect sense.
Well, it does. So this must relate to all speedsters, and I'm guessing that they need to be grounded somehow in order to use whatever that, what's the force called? They generate an energy when they run, and I don't think they can generate that without gravity, right?
No. So, I mean, one of the things, you need friction to run and walk, period, right? So with no gravity, there's no friction.
Right.
And there's no, So that was kind of the main thing that I kept coming back to. Since you can't generate any friction, you have no way to propel yourself forward, speed force or no speed force. If you can't propel yourself fast enough, you can't really use your super speed.
Well, and that I think that this is where it comes into play with all your sciences. Gravity gives you mass, gives you weight, which touches you down. So if there is absolutely no gravity, then you're weightless. So you just don't even have anything to propel yourself. You have no strength. You have nothing to get yourself going, floating in an environment.
No, there's no forces.
Yeah. So.
Yep, you are just a mass.
So it makes me wonder if Thawne got outside onto the surface of the moon where there is very little gravity, could he move quick on the moon? Or would he only be maybe half speed? Like, what would happen there?
I think he would be able to move more quickly than like Ray, for instance, because he does have access to the speed force.
Right.
But because the gravity is so much less, I don't know. I think he would go less fast, if that makes sense. He would have less velocity.
Yeah. If he was able to take off and get a few steps with how little the gravity is, he'd probably launch himself right off the surface because there's not enough to keep him down.
Yeah, that's true. That could be a problem too.
Right? So, yeah.
Yeah. If he gets going too fast and jumps too far, like he'd just keep going and going.
Yeah.
If he got outside the gravitational pull of the moon, that could be bad.
And he'd have trouble slowing down too and stopping. Like he'd really have to dig in, and he'd probably, drag for quite a while. Yeah,
well, if he's in the air without anything to push off of, he wouldn't be able to go back down. He would just kind of keep going. So that would have been bad.
That would have been bad.
Well, maybe good for us, but bad for him.
No, he's the best villain ever.
No, I know. I love him.
Too funny. All right, so where are we going from there?
All right, well, so this was the piece where I was saying that after they have their fight and they've disengaged from the command module, they let Ray know that basically he's going to have to pilot this thing and land it on the moon because that's the only place that they can go now that they've disengaged from the main part of the ship. And so and this was the part I wasn't clear on. Had he already tied up Thawne at this point, or was Thawne like knocked out so that he could so that Ray could land the lunar module.
Remember Ray shot him with his
Yes.
suit, with his Atom suit. He shot him, and I think that knocked him out.
Knocked him out.
And then
Okay.
tied him up.
Okay. Yeah, because I knew he was tied up after they landed, but I was trying to put the pieces together of how he landed the ship and accomplished that at the same time. So that's helpful. Okay. So as this is happening, they're realizing that they have like less than, I don't know, a minute until radio contact comes back, and they're basically going to listen to Ray crash land on the moon, which would not be great because that's not what's supposed to be happening. So we had a pretty fun distraction so that Jax could run out and kind of cut the lines so that they didn't get the radio broadcast.
Pretty fun distraction, huh? Are you meaning like this karaoke moment in the middle of the control room?
It's a British tradition. I don't know what you're talking about.
Apparently, those British are a little bit loopy.
Or the fake British are a little bit loopy.
Yeah.
I was really not expecting that, and
no,
it was so funny.
It really, really threw me off because they had the tense music and this moment like, oh my god, like the ship's gonna crash, and that's not what you expect as a. They were saying they need a distraction.
So they wouldn't pay attention. Yeah.
Exactly. And so to see Stein just breaking a song, like you said, it was so unexpected. It was not the type of distraction I was looking to get, I guess. And so at first I was like, what? And I actually didn't even think it was funny until it went on for a little while. Because in the beginning I was like, okay, this is so far gone corny. I don't know what's going on right now. And then it became funny. I think where I started laughing is when you saw the entire control room is just looking at him, and there's that one young guy, and he just starts shaking his shoulders and getting into it. And then I started laughing.
Yeah. So. I thought the whole thing like was hysterical because I thought for sure that it was going to be Mick Rory that did something crazy. Just like, oh, look at me, like start a fight with someone. I don't know. That's what I was expecting because that's what Mick does. Yes. But instead, Stein just bursts into song, and like it's one of not like the most like obnoxious. I mean, it's a pretty obnoxious song, I guess, but it just was so unexpected. And the look on Jax's face was so priceless as he hears it coming over the comms. He's like, what the heck? What is happening?
Well, and then Mick actually joins in, which is pretty darn funny.
They all joined in. That's what was so funny about it. In the end, they're looking at him, and then they all there's like a chorus. I'm not going to attempt to sing it. No. I'm not as good as Victor.
But it made me, of course, it's a shout out to that great scene in the old movie Beetlejuice. I don't know if you saw that.
I have seen the movie, but it has been a very long time.
Okay. Well, it's a great dinner scene when they all get possessed by Beetlejuice and they all break into dance and song around the dinner table, and that's the song. So it's
I didn't remember. I don't remember that. I may have to go rewatch that movie.
Yeah, it's the one scene that really stands out. Everybody remembers that scene from Beetlejuice if they're if they're old enough, I guess, because it's a long time ago for that movie was for sure.
I was young when I saw it.
Yeah, but anyway, it was funny.
Anyway, all right. So we have our distraction, and they're trying to like reroute the feeds, and then Ray eventually gets safely on the moon, and so they can kind of let the flight control room realize that Apollo 13 has basically disappeared. So they all kind of go into panic mode.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we kind of cut back, and we have some scenes up on the moon with Ray and Thawne. I mean, the very first one that we see, and this is gonna kind of jump. Oh, no, this doesn't. Well, I can't tell if this jumps or not, but it's when he's filming that little video monologue, mm-hmm. and he talks about like the Martian reference. He's like, now I know how Matt Damon feels. Like, okay, that's pretty funny. Did you see the movie The Martian or read the book?
Yep,
okay.
That's why I got the joke. So yeah, that's when he was alone when they let him know that he's going to be stranded there for a little while. Then he's like,
Yeah.
now I know how Matt Damon felt.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And so,
Pretty funny.
yeah. So basically, that's when Sarah's kind of like, well, we're going to have to come pick you back up because we have to go save the command module, because after they ejected the lunar module from it, it kind of sent it off course a bit. And it was sort of headed for this like asteroid belt, which is kind of a problem.
Yeah, a little bit.
So Sarah just decides to go after it, and she comes up with a plan that Rip doesn't exactly approve of.
Yeah, he's getting a little defensive of the ship there, but she quickly reminds him, like, you put it in the way of a nuclear torpedo, so I think it can handle a few asteroids.
Exactly. And so that's kind of her rationale. And he's like, well, I didn't know it was going to do that. That's why I time scattered all of you. And she's like, well, we didn't want to be time scattered.
Yes.
And they have this whole huge big argument. And I'm like, this is not a good time to have this kind of an argument. You're headed for an asteroid belt and you're trying to save the remaining Apollo 13 astronauts.
Yeah, I'm going to save that for a little bit later.
All right. Well, then
but I'm with you.
Yeah, it was bad timing.
But what that leads to, though, is what it is they're actually arguing over is the ship itself.
Yes, that is true.
Right.
I mean, Rip clearly still thinks it's his ship. Mm-hmm. I mean, technically, it is his ship, but he's been gone for, how many months has it been?
Yeah.
It's been several.
Yeah.
And so, Sarah's stepped up. She's clearly the captain. The team responds to her. You can see how well they're working together throughout all of the time up to this point in the episode. And they don't really need him right now. And so I guess he feels a little bit put out. It's like, hey, you're on my ship. He feels protective of his ship still.
Yeah, exactly. So I was surprised we didn't actually hear Gideon step in on that at all, because they're fighting over her. He thought she would have had a little quip of some kind.
I know. Well, that's true. Yeah, because this was before they hit the asteroid belt, so she was still online.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. Yeah, you're right. I'm surprised she didn't say anything. It was Amaya who ultimately gets Sarah's attention, saying, Sarah, we keep getting bombarded with asteroids or whatever. But yeah, Gideon should have spoken up. I'm a little bit surprised by that.
Yeah. Writing
choice. But anyway, you want to talk a little bit about Ray's moonwalk, or did you have anything else on?
No. I thought the moonwalk was kind of cool. I mean, it's Adam on the moon, and Ray's having this moment again. This happy, excited little kid in a candy shop. He's walking on the moon, and I'm right there with him. How cool would that be? That's so awesome. It was an exciting moment to get to share with our Ray.
Yeah, I thought so. I love that they basically remade the walk on the moon, and then of course a line from Californication popped into my head.
Oh yeah.
yeah, the Red Hot Chili Pepper song is. There's a line in there. It says, "Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement."
Oh, you're not one of those theorists that don't believe we ever land on the moon, are you? Okay.
No. But I love it. That immediately popped into my head because that's literally what they were doing. They were remaking the walk on the moon in Hollywood.
Right.
So that's why it popped in my head. But no. I have a degree in physics. I absolutely believe we went to the moon.
We go from him recovering the spear fragment and getting back to the lunar lander section, and him and Thawne get into a little bit of a discussion.
It was a very interesting discussion.
Yeah, I think these were some of probably my favorite scenes of the episode for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the fact because Thawne, he's proposing an alliance and brings up a lot of, and I guess you're saying you forgot that he was a scientist.
I always forget that he's a scientist. I just see him as an evil, like, speedster villain, even though, I mean, like, I know he's a scientist, but it always escapes my mind until he reminds us.
Okay. See, I know the character well, and I know that's his beginnings. As a scientist, he was studying the Speed Force because he idolized the Flash, and he's brilliant. He's like one of the smartest people on Earth at that time. So, you know, what I liked about these scenes was that once he gets Ray to trust him enough on time that this takes two people to fix this. You know, I think he says this is the 2-man patch job. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's very what's the word? Not believable, but very
convincing.
Convincing, thank you. That I would have set him free as well, but it's in everything that he's saying in these scenes when he's talking to Ray about, you know, they're having this big discussion about what is it with Ray? You know, Ray's like, I built the Atom suit to help people, and he's like, yep. Oh yeah, did you really? Because, you know, if you're gonna help people, then why are you, you know, so hell bent on being a hero and yada, like that. This whole speech that they have back and forth, I couldn't help but actually agree with Thawne here, and I know. And to me, it also humanized him, because when he's talking about, you know, you may be doing what you need to do, Ray, but you need to understand where I'm coming from, that I just want to live.
Yeah. Yeah, he says his motivation is more elemental.
Yeah. So that really kind of humanized Eobard for me, and I think it kind of affected Ray as well. It might come back later on in the season when they are wanting to kill Eobard or something. I have a feeling Ray's going to step in and say, you know what, guys, he's also just a man like us. He's maybe done bad things, but can you blame him? He's just trying to save himself. We may not agree with everything that he's done, and he's been an evil jerk, basically, but
yeah,
he's just trying to save himself. And I couldn't help but have a piece of me that felt a bit for Thawne and be like, yeah, you know what? He is doing what he thinks he has to do to save himself. So yeah, it was a crazy feeling. That whole sequence just gave me this really strange, odd feeling. Like, I can't hate Thawne so much right now. I really can't.
I know. I had very similar feelings. It was like, on the one hand, I was saying, no, you can't work with him. Don't have time. You can't trust him. But on the other hand, I was listening to what he's saying, and I was like, you know, he's making some good points.
Yeah.
So.
Well, actually, the way you have it worded here is like Ray became the Atom, or chose to become the Atom, to become greater and reach higher, like walking on the moon. That's the example that Thawne gave. Well, he's like, Thawne's like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a greater person and reach for higher goals. So that's all I'm trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's very true. I mean, his suit could power an entire city, which would help people, but he chooses to keep that power for himself, and then he himself helps the people.
Yeah. See, exactly. So
it's very interesting.
It is a bit of selfishness on Ray's part as well. And the fact that he first says, we have more in common than you think. And Ray's like, no way. And then at the end of all of that, you could see the look on Ray's face. He's looking at Thawne like, we are actually kind of similar.
Yep.
So I'm curious if there's going to be more play to that in later episodes.
Yeah, I would like that if it came back. It would be a good tie-in. Yeah. All right. Well, so our next bit here is that they actually have to launch themselves up so that Sara can rescue them and secure Apollo 13 back together and send it on its way back home.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. The only kind of big problem here is that after their collision in the asteroid fields, the Wave Rider is not doing very good. They're kind of on reserve power, and everybody's celebrating because they've got Apollo 13 back on its way. They've got Ray and Thawne kind of secured back on the ship. But Dr. Stein realizes something. He realizes that they don't have enough power to have the heat shields come back up So they're going to have a very difficult time re-entering Earth, as in they probably can't.
They'll be incinerated, basically.
Yep. They'll either be incinerated or they'll bounce off the atmosphere if they pick the wrong angle.
Well, the wrong angle, yeah. They have to enter at a very specific angle.
Yes, and it is a very specific angle. So I did actually recall this from some of my physics classes, which was pretty cool. I think the angle that they threw out, I think it's close, but I think it's more or less made up because there's a couple of different variables that go into calculating that angle.
Okay.
But if anybody wants to be super nerdy and they're curious, might have found the FAA's manual on returning from space re-entry. And they kind of walk through basic calculations of how you would begin to calculate this. If anybody else is curious and nerdy like I am, that's also in our blog post.
This is like Harley's science class today.
Do you see why I liked this? This is why I rated this episode a 9. They really did quite well with the science. I've got a nitpick, but for the most part, it was really pretty good.
I'm getting it now. I am getting it.
But anyway, so they're all realizing this problem. Dr. Stein doesn't have a supercomputer, and so he can't really calculate this angle quickly, which, after kind of looking it up, I don't know that he necessarily needed a supercomputer, but there are a lot of variables that he may not have necessarily had. So I could kind of buy that he couldn't calculate it off the top of his head. But luckily, Eobard Thawne just happens to know the magic angle based on all of the variables, I guess. And he tells them exactly what angle they need to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, which is good. So now they're not all going to die.
Yeah, no, it was just funny how he's like, hello, I am from the future. I know this stuff.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I love how Ray just gets up. He's like, we do have a supercomputer. And Rip's like, no, Gideon's offline. He's like, no, I'm not talking about Gideon.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I mean,
cool.
they can't not believe him because he expressed it clearly. I don't want to die. I'm not going to kill you guys. I need to get home too.
Yep.
Simple as that. So let me help you. Believe me, trust me in this, at least in this science. Just trust me.
Yep. And I mean, it worked out. So good news.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's a few other events that happen before we can land safely on the ground.
Oh boy, yeah.
How do you want to tackle these? I guess we should probably mention that while they're trying to figure out this whole angle business, Hank Heywood actually shows up at Mission Control, and we learned that his dad had fixed an essay writing contest because he wanted to meet him, which was sweet.
Yeah, that was the one thing he was going to change about his own past, is just get a chance to meet his son once. Yeah,
and I don't think he was going to tell him who he was, but he just wanted to meet him. Mm-hmm. Which then made me really sad, and it made these next scenes that much more powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, it did, because they're having trouble entering the atmosphere properly. And what was the reason? There was something wrong with the ship that they had to do? Their
angle was off, so they needed to come in at 38 degrees, and they were at 37.
Right, but they couldn't get to the 38-degree angle because of...
Oh, they didn't have any thrusters.
Right.
Their thrusters were shot, so...
So they had to open the cargo bay door in order to change the pressure of the ship, which would change its... Angle of descent, yada, yada. Okay, and that's why he was in there, right?
Yep.
Well, they actually were all going to do it, because first Rip jumps up, and then Sara says, no, I'm the captain, I'll go do it. And then they were like, well, wait a sec, where's Commander Steele?
Yeah, exactly. They realized he was just gone.
He was already there, yeah.
I know. So Nate kind of goes running off, and we get this, such a great scene.
Yeah, it was... I brought tears to my eyes, and even watching it the second time through, it still got me. I was like, geez, that's, yeah.
Yeah, it got me both times too.
2 weeks in a row. I think Harley is getting soft on us here.
I told you they're bringing it, man.
Too much hanging out with the Flash. She's getting soft.
I know, you're sending feelings my way. Ugh, take them back. Oh, I was really sad to see him go. I understand why, but I was just really sad about it.
Yeah. It was. I mean, for Nate to have to witness that, because he never ever got to meet his grandfather, and this was his only chance to. I mean, he was so happy to get the chance to spend some time with him and get to know him a little bit, and to have to witness that is just crushing. It really is.
I know. I felt for him.
Yeah. But good performance on Nate. What's his name? What's the actor playing Nate?
Nick Sano.
Nick Sano, that's right. Yeah, great performance on his part for sure.
Oh yeah, it was very good. It was good. Both of them, they were great.
That's true.
Sad to see that actor go too. I really was enjoying him.
Yeah, I mean, it was good chemistry. Really good. I mean, the fact that he was his grandfather, but they were pretty much the same age. You could still see that chemistry, that connection, that they're related, and it was an interesting kind of. I don't even know what the word is to describe that. I mean, an anomaly, I guess, that you're in the same time space as your grandfather, but he's the same age as you, essentially.
Paradox.
Yeah, paradox, another good word. And yet there was still this weird family connection that you felt between the two of them. So yeah, it was well done. Well done by the two of them.
Very well done. All right. Well, we have a couple, like 3 basically kind of quick scenes to kind of round out this episode.
All right.
So the first thing, did we know that Thawne invented the anti-speedster guns?
Yes, we did. He actually states that. I can't remember what episode it was, but the last time they were pointed at him, he's like, "Are you kidding me? I invented those."
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like we've heard this before, but he made a point to say, I invented those.
Yep.
So I was like, okay. And I would just like to point out that he called him Raymond the entire time. So he always uses full names. So maybe he really could be Savitar.
Oh, there's a little flash. A little piece of flash. Interesting. I can't deny it or say you're wrong, but I just not buying into that theory. Not yet.
Yeah, or it could be HR, the drumsticks
that's
twirling.
Even a worse theory. Come on, you're killing me. Okay, let's save that for our flash talk.
I know, I'm doing it on purpose. Okay,
all right.
The next little point is that I really liked the scene where Nate got to talk to his dad.
Yeah.
It was nice. He gave him some good advice.
Well, he's he's kind of doing what Leonard Snart did way back when in the first season. He's hoping that maybe talking to his dad a little bit before their time, it would help steer him on a bit of a different path. Giving him a little bit different of a childhood. I mean, that I was a little bit, a minor nitpick, I was a little bit bothered with how quick Nate was jumping to the conclusion that he has to save his family over all. You know, given the historian that he is and how adamant he is about protecting the timeline and the history and the way the world actually happened and all that kind of stuff, and he just tossed that all out the window to save his family and to better his family. And he realized, this is a chance for me to give myself a better childhood, and my dad never got to have his dad, so if he gets that, then maybe I'll get a better father, and yada, like it, without thinking of the consequences of any of that. So it kind of bugged me a little bit, but then I was also realizing, you know what, every character on our show is probably going to face this moral choice where something extremely important to them personally is going to be on the line, and they have a chance to right something or fix something that they were never ever content with.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a moral decision they have to make, and I can't blame any of them for ever wanting to fix that. And this was Nate's time. This was his choice that he had to make, and he didn't take any time deciding which way he was going to go. Save his family first.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, we've seen Stein and how he's had to deal with his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sara is struggling with Laurel's death.
And Snark's trying to fix his dad because his dad was an abusive jerk. So,
and even Mick tried to give himself a little pep talk.
Yep, even Mick.
Typical of Mick, he of course focuses on himself.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I mean. Everybody's kind of having to go through this a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a very good point. I think that's kind of why I was sort of okay with it. At the end of the day, I felt like fighting for your family, if that was going to be the one thing that would kind of make him throw caution to the wind and try to change history, that would be the one thing. And I feel like family is an acceptable reason to be distracted with that from your, like, to detract from your mission.
Yeah, so that would be really the only thing I would say.
Yeah.
Well, we got one final clip, the way the show ended. What did you think about that? Amaya, listening to, I mean, Nate said a little bit too much, I think, out of pure emotion. He was kind of throwing it back in her face, and it was a little too much. And she decided to go dig into, you call it her past, but it's actually her future.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I guess it's based, well, I guess it's not even the past, maybe even from where they stand today.
No, yeah, it is in the future from where they are actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, she looks it up. She sees her daughter and she sees her granddaughter.
And she has learned way too much about her future.
So what is that going to do? What's that? Yeah. I don't know. What do you think about that? I just, to me, it's like, oh, Nate, you said too much. Like, how can anyone's not going to be able to hold back on the curiosity?
I know. I think she's going to be our next character to really struggle with this moral dilemma. She's been pretty strong the entire season. Once she kind of not got over Rex. I mean, I guess she kind of has gotten over Rex, but basically moving on from her vendetta and realizing that she can't really kill Thawne and kind of undo things. What's done there is done.
Yeah.
But now I think she's going to have to struggle with this whole new thing of, now that she exactly knows what happens in her future, can she let it be a self-fulfilling prophecy, or is she going to try to change it?
Is she going to try and change it? Exactly.
Or can she try and change it?
Well, it's
because
all
of the magnitude of it.
Yeah, well, it's true, but it's about her village being destroyed.
Yeah.
So, if she changes things, how does that affect her daughter and her granddaughter? Yeah, that's what I have a feeling is that was basically the beginning of the end for Vixen on our show. Whether she's going to go back and try to change her future or not, I think she's only with us for this season. I have a feeling that she's going to decide to go back. Whatever she's going to do with it, we don't know, but she's going to go back. And that'll be the end of Vixen on this show, which opens the door for other characters, because season 3 will have to get new characters added in, and there's a lot of talk about possibly getting Jesse Quick on or whatever, stuff like that. So
yeah,
that's what I see happening with Vixen now. This was the beginning of the end of her story.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Probably right.
All right. Well, that was the end of the episode. Let's get into some nitpicks. We have a couple small ones, I think, don't we?
Yeah.
All right.
Form of water.
Cool. What do you got? What's bugging you this time? It has to be science-based. It has to be.
It is. The first little bit, though, was that Ray didn't shrink down small enough so that Thawne wouldn't see him. Like, I get we needed that to move the entire episode forward, but it still bothered me.
Right. Well, I tried to debunk it a little bit.
Yeah, you did. You did a little bit. It still bugged me. But anyway, so kind of the main thing that I had, and this wasn't a huge deal, but as they're re-entering the Earth's atmosphere and they have all of their non-essential systems shut down, wouldn't that include gravity? It kind of bothered me that gravity was still active.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. they said essential, they were talking about water filters and all that different stuff. So
yeah, oxygen, life support.
Yeah. So maybe they cut all that stuff out first
Mm-hmm.
and leave gravity in there so they can still work the ship. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, I can see how they would leave it in there for that purpose, like you said, so they could actually function and work the ship. But I feel like if they were that badly damaged where the thrusters weren't even working, I feel like gravity should have gone as well.
Yeah, maybe.
So, yeah. So them being able to like move around and all those scenes, and Nate run after Henry and watch him get sucked out of the aircraft or whatever, spacecraft. Yeah. Them being so mobile at that point kind of bothered me, knowing just how crippled the ship was. But that's really it. Not too bad. So what was yours? I think we briefly touched on it before.
Yeah, and I don't have a lot to really go farther into it. But for me, it was just bringing it back to Sara and Rip's argument over the ship in the heat of them going into the asteroid field. I was just like, come on, guys, really? Like, deal with the situation at hand, grow up, act like captains, both of you, because you're in a real tough predicament, and you have seconds to make decisions, and you guys are fighting like little children over a Hot Wheels car or something. It's just come on. It really, really bugged me, especially Sara. She's so much better than that to get caught in a stupid argument like that. It just seemed out of character for her, and it just, the timing of it and everything. It's one of those moments. It's like Nate and Amaya and their absolutely stupid timing of when they feel like getting frisky. It's like, come on, like, nah. So that's what bugged me. I mean, as much as I wasn't super pumped about this episode, I really didn't find a lot about it to nitpick. So
just didn't do it for you.
I mean, it was good. It just wasn't as good as the last few. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Well, let's get to quotes, shall we?
Yes.
Shape out an eagle.
Awesome. All right. So funny quotes this week. Well, how about last week? What was our winner from last week?
Our winner was still the same.
If that's right,
Then there's more than just Bizarro me on this ship.
like Evil Ray, Evil Stein.
Evil Mick? I guess that's just regular Mick, but still.
Cool.
I liked that one. It was good.
It was. So what do you got for us this week?
All right. The first quote is called Buzz Lightyear.
I love that name.
It's good.
Jefferson, the entire world is about to listen to Raymond crash on the moon.
Wait, haircuts on the moon.
I had to get some Mick Rory in. Come on.
Of course.
Was that the only thing he said all episode?
He had maybe 3 or 4 lines. That was it, yeah. Not much. All right, what's quote number 2?
Flat comedy.
What about Mr. Thawne?
He's a little tied up at the moment.
Puns. The lowest form of humor.
I feel like I had to mention that one.
Of course. No, there's some, I think a lot of the, like I said, some of the best scenes were with Thawne and Ray, and I think both of us pulled from these areas, and I stole a quote from you. I don't know if you noticed.
Wait, you stole a quote from me?
I stole one of your funny ones and turned it into one of my serious scenes because there was
a lot of dry humor.
Yeah, but there were some ramifications to one of the quotes that was said, and I decided that was more worthy of being a serious, really kind of moment, even though it has a funny.
Oh, I see it now. I was like, wait, what are you talking about?
So in stealing that, I actually gave you a different one at the end here. So hopefully you're okay with the one that I chose to slide back in as a.
Yeah, I thought maybe for some reason I hadn't picked enough. I totally didn't even realize that you took one of my quotes. That's hilarious. All right.
Well, what's your third one? Before we get to the one that I snuck in, what's your third one?
A little celebration.
crew. We are now the proud owners of the last fragment of the Spear of Destiny.
Copy.
Copy. That's all I get is a copy? Guys, I'm standing on the friggin' moon.
I had to use the entire musical track on that just to get the build up.
I was going to say, I love that you included the entire musical section for that. That's amazing.
Poor Ray.
I know.
All right. So number 4 is
Video selfie.
Which is the one that I snuck in. So hopefully you like this one.
Stranded on the moon. Fuel on the LEM is close to zero. Food and water provisions were designed to last days, not months. So, yeah. I'm gonna have to sign something out of this.
What are you doing?
I'm filming this for posterity, in case we don't make it back.
I'm not dying on the moon.
Signing off.
Actually, I did almost pick that quote, so I'm actually glad that that's the one you snuck in.
I just like he's in this very serious recording like it's for history, and then you just see over his shoulder, what are you doing?
I know.
That snarky thought. That cracked me up so much. So
I know.
Pretty funny. And your last one here, I'm actually going to save that. I think we're going to sign off with that. How's that sound?
That sounds fantastic. I will just let everybody know that I have an honorable mention.
Cool. Well, that's some funny ones for this week, so definitely.
Yes. All right. Shall we move on to your serious scenes?
We shall, and our winner for last week was A Partner's Worth.
Perhaps you've chosen the wrong analogy. Your partner is dead.
Well, I'm still on the ship.
Your point?
You're not exactly a spring chicken, Professor.
Your point!
My point is you're not going to be around for too much longer. And Jax has to learn how to do this stuff himself. Stop treating him like a kid and more like a partner. Partner.
Ooh, man, our show's got some heavy moments sometimes.
It does. I'm actually surprised that was the one that won. I mean, it's a great quote, but that's awesome.
Yeah. So for this week, you're about to say?
I was about to ask you what your first one was. What's your first scene this week?
The first scene is called Commitment.
All right. Good luck, fellas. You're not sticking around? We might need you to run a little more interference for us.
No can do. I gave up my life for that spear, and I'll be damned if I let anyone steal it now. I'm going with my grandson to space.
That was a good one. I like
that. It was a good one. It's just a cool moment. He's like, the hell with that, man. I have already given up my life. Like, I just loved it.
I know. I'm going to space. All right. What's number 2?
Number 2 is Headline.
He doesn't have super speed without gravity. Newsflash, Raymond. I don't need super speed to kick your ass.
That was the one I stole from you.
I know.
Even though it's funny the way Eobard responds to him, it's just the eye-opening moment of he doesn't have super speed without gravity. That's why I chose this scene, because that was like, ooh, that's information we did not ever know about. So,
yeah, I think that was eye-opening for all of us. Good pick.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's number 3?
Number 3 is Not Such a Monster.
You could use the dwarf star in your exosuit to power an entire city, but instead you chose to become the Atom because you weren't satisfied with your small, pathetic life. There is no shame in wanting to be greater, to reach higher, to walk on the moon.
Is that why you want the spear? Reach higher, become greater, run faster.
No. I'm after something much more elemental. I want to live. Surely you can sympathize.
And that ties into what we were trying to talk about with how it Eobard at that moment doesn't seem so bad.
No, that was a great scene.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what's your last quote?
Oh, grab the Kleenex, Harley. This one is very obvious. Ultimate sacrifice.
Don't do this! I am so sorry, Nathaniel. No, you open that door. The explosive decompression will suck you out. If I don't, you will all die. I can do it. Let me do it. I have powers now. No. I won't let you risk your life. I have fulfilled my duty, protecting my piece of the spear. But I'm just a grunt. Now it's your turn. You can figure out a way to destroy the spear. Don't let it ruin another person's life. Your son is at mission control. He's there. He's waiting for you. Come on. Don't. Give him a message for me. Tell him I'm sorry for leaving. Don't. Please don't. Please don't.
Yeah, man. Not only does our show have some heavy moments, it really can tug on the heartstrings sometimes.
Yes, it can.
And it just shows how well, even though we haven't seen some of these side characters, we don't even see them very much. We've seen Commander Steele, in 2 episodes up to this point, and yet we were already attached to him and had some type of emotional connection to feel in this moment. So that just shows the power of the writing this season, that we can feel so much for someone that hasn't even really been here.
Yeah, well, I mean, we really only spent this episode with him, really getting to know him. I mean, I know that we saw him in another episode, but we didn't get, I don't feel like we got enough with him. But they really did a good job of making us get to know the character in this episode so that we actually felt that loss and it was impactful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, one of the reasons I really, really enjoyed this episode. It was just very well. I really thought it was well done.
Yeah, I'm not. I didn't hate it. I'm with you on it, so it's just not as powerful as some of the other ones. But you know what? That last moment kind of was like, okay, it did have some good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into some feedback.
Holy Twin Powers, activate!
And our first one is an email from ArcPhase. And he says, "Greetings, Wonder Twins. I definitely agree with Commander Steele that the Legends are a much better team compared to how they were the last time they met. A lot better than when Rip was the captain of the ship. At least Rip is more than willing to let Sara continue her leadership role on the ship, which everyone wanted. Yes. Yes, 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 all around there."
Yes.
He continues, "Despite being a ship that can travel through time and space, this is the first time other than in the crossover that they have flown the Wave Rider through space, and what's going to happen when they realize that 3 astronauts went to space and only 2 came back?"
Yes, I had that same question. I forgot to mention it.
See, so where's
that bothered
Swigert's
me
body,
too.
right?
Yes, that bothered me too, unless he stowed him away somewhere else on the ship, which isn't possible on those ships, by the way.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, plot hole, the writers probably forgot all about that themselves.
Yes. Oh, thank you for mentioning that and bringing it back into my mind. That was also part of my nitpick.
Yeah, there you go. And he finishes off, "So now the count for both the Legends and the Legion are 2 for 2. How will it play out in the next episode, I wonder? No cliffhanger to give us any hints. Can't wait to see it." From ArcPhase. Yeah, it's true. They're tied 2-2 with spear pieces, and they gave us absolutely no lead into what's coming next.
No, they didn't at all. Although I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed the bumper at the end of the episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. Cool. Well, thanks, ArcPhase, for that email. And then we've got a voicemail from our Eye in the Sky green butterfly.
"Hi, this is your Eye in the Sky green butterfly. As soon as I saw that teaser trailer last week, I was like, oh my god, the piece of spear is on the moon! How cool is that? Legends in space! I mean, let's face it, they spend a lot of time in the temporal zone, which is sort of like space. But this is actual space, and Ray got to walk on the moon! Sara did a really wonderful job making captain decisions. Rip had a lot of grace, accepting that Sara has done a good job leading this team and keeping them together. Nate's grandfather made a really admirable decision, looking at the whole big picture. He understood in the end that he could not go back in time and make life easier for his wife and young son. So instead, he sacrificed himself to preserve the timeline and keep everyone everywhere safe from a huge time aberration. Speaking of time aberrations, I think Amaya now understands with Gideon's help why it is so dangerous for her to pursue a relationship with Nate, though no less heartbreaking, because now she is falling for Nate, number one, which will cause heartache, and she sees that there's tragedy in store for her family line, which will cause more heartache. It makes sense to trust the bad guy when he wants to live just as bad as you do. So bad, in fact, that he's willing to rewrite history to try to preserve his ancestor, therefore restoring himself to the timeline. But I'm not too terribly worried about Eobard. I mean, he can't really win, can he? I mean, bad guy. We can't let the bad guy win. But on the slim chance that our legends fail and Eobard and the Legion of Doom wins, are we going to have yet another Flashpoint paradox on our hands? If Eobard is able to change things that makes Eddie Thawne live, this episode gets 9 out of 10 walks on the moon. Have a super week. Green Butterfly out.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. That could the Legion of Doom possibly win, and it ends with a massive reality shift change. I don't know if they would want to go that far. But could you imagine?
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. And also, our season ends before the other two.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. My brain hurts just thinking about it.
Well, yeah, because I mean, they could end it with us just winning this battle, I guess, and getting all the spear parts. And then what do they do with them? And that's where the season ends, and we have no idea about season 3, or they could leave us with a big cliffhanger. But what is that going to be? No idea. No idea where they could go with this. So
I don't either. I guess we'll just have to find out.
Yeah. But man, Green Butterfly, I love your energy in the beginning. You are basically like Ray's little sister, or bigger sister. I don't know if like just your enthusiasm is right in line with his, and it's so funny. It'd be so cool to see you alongside him, sharing in these experiences he's getting to have.
Yeah, see, someone else is excited we are going into space too.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
Totally. But thanks for sending that in, Green Butterfly.
Yes, always good to hear from you.
Yeah.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegends@gmail.com. That's spelled with 1 R. You can also reach us on Twitter @tomorrowslegends, also with 1 R. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/tomorrowslegends and become part of the community.
Yes, please do all of that. And don't forget iTunes. Get in there and give us a rating and, whatever star count you think we deserve.
Yes, and you should give us 5 stars because that's what we deserve. No, I'm just kidding. Be honest.
So, did you want to get into some Flash and Arrow? Did you watch them this
week? I did. I watched both episodes. I know I didn't write down any notes because I was just kind of really enjoying both episodes, and I was so along for the ride and kind of so into it that I had a hard time picking out any like one thing to kind of focus on. So I don't know. So I guess let's start with Flash and kind of see where it goes.
Okay.
My name is Barry Allen, and I am the fastest man alive.
What did you feel about it then? It was good from start to finish. I think this was a good week of TV for all of our shows, actually.
Yeah, I agree. I was pretty captivated by all of the episodes that I watched this week. And I mean, kind of the downside is for me is sometimes that Flash is the first one I watch. And then I watch our show twice and then I watch Arrow. So Arrow tends to be more fresh in my mind. Our show I watched twice, and then Flash is kind of a distant memory by this point. But it was good. It was really good. I like the Speed Force episodes because I like getting to learn more about the Speed Force. And this time we had a little bit better of an idea of what was in store for us once Barry got inside of it. Right. So I didn't fully understand why does a speedster have to be stuck in the Speed Force? Do you know?
Yeah.
Is that just how did they?
Well, I think it's because I'm thinking it's like a speedster got sacrificed to the Speed Force, like. So one kind of has to stay in there. One has to keep that placeholder, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a tough because I mean, who was the first one to go in there? Who was the first one that while it got tossed in there,
he took Savitar's place.
Yeah. So so Savitar was the first one to go in. But we don't really know what happened there yet. He just keeps telling us that Flash imprisoned him there. So I don't know. Maybe they haven't fully explained it. And I'm just thinking that someone got sacrificed to the Speed Force, or the Speed Force needs a speedster in it to function properly. I'm not sure. So it's just something along those lines. I believe that because somebody got sacrificed to it, you can't just, it's like you owe the Speed Force that. It's like, I don't know. It's like throwing a penny in a wishing well. You can't dive in and get your penny afterwards, or it breaks the wish.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough question to answer for sure.
Yeah, it was just that was the part of the episode that confused me the most. But I thought it was very well done. I really enjoyed it. It was well acted as well.
Yeah, well, you know what I really liked is how many of the characters they brought back. I mean, we got to see Eddie Thawne again. We got to see Ronnie come back again. We got, of course, Jay Garrick, and then they brought in on the darker side. They got Black Flash in there. They got the Time Wraith in there. All these creatures and characters, and we're like, it was just a really, really cool way to get to bring these guys back and fit them within a 42-minute episode. So it was.
Captain Cold.
Can't forget
even. Captain Cold.
Oh, you should have heard Patty snort. Or Patty snort. You should have heard Patty Spivot squeak when he showed up. Holy cow.
Yeah, I watched the trailer and they spoiled that. But
oh, did they? Okay.
In the trailer, the Flash trailer spoiled it completely. It was the first thing they showed in the trailer. I was like, oh man. I knew it was the Speed Force version of him, but it was still cool to see Wentworth Miller back. I really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, totally. So
yeah,
no, it was a strong episode, just really, really emotional. So we're coming down to a really intense ending, I think, on the Flash. It's going to be
this whole season's been very heavy.
Except for the next episode, because we got the Flash Supergirl musical crossover coming up next. So.
Yes, with a special Glee guest star, Darren Criss.
All right, well, let's move into some straight shots.
By day, I lead Star City as its mayor, but by night, I am someone else. I am something else. I am the Green Arrow.
So again, Arrow, I mean, I just finished Arrow Squad last night, but I really, really liked this episode. It was Arrow, I think, is finding its groove again. It's really getting as close as it can to the feel of season 1 and 2. Just the way they're writing, and the episodes are flowing from start to finish without many hiccups at all, without anything that's really going, huh? It's just seamlessly working from start to finish, and I'm loving it. And what I explained in Air Squad, what I liked so much about this episode is what they've done with Prometheus. And it's a very personal story. This is a one-on-one battle between Oliver and Prometheus. The villain is trying to hurt Oliver. He's going after him. It's become a personal vendetta, personal story. We're very attached to Oliver, so it's becoming personal for us, it's just grounded Arrow again. Arrow's not having to save the universe or save the city or save the world. It's an Oliver story. He's got to save himself and save his team, which has brought it all back down at a ground level to where we used to love it so much in season 1 and 2 before it got away from itself. And it's just going, this is Arrow.
Yes.
This feels good. I mean, Prometheus, I still like Slade Wilson better, but Prometheus is probably the most worthy successor since Slade as the next best villain we've had.
I would agree with that. I think he's a fantastic villain. I love that we got to see the dichotomy of the Adrian Chase character, so that we saw him just as Adrian Chase, and then after the reveal, we now see the Prometheus side and only the Prometheus side. You could just see that he was just playing a character and being buddy with Oliver and earning his trust, just so that he could bring him down, destroy him. Yeah. It was great. I love that Talia is alive, and it's really like her vendetta, because I mean, I didn't really forget this, but I just wasn't thinking of the fact that he killed her father. Totally. Absolutely. I was like, oh, well, no wonder she hates him.
Well, that leads me into I came up with a new theory that I have a feeling Prometheus is a puppet to Talia. I have a feeling she's pulling the strings and she's the one in charge here, because Chase was upset about losing his father and everything, but I think she took that and used that as fuel to burn the fire inside. And as she trained him, she was teaching him all this stuff about Oliver. And which I think is why Prometheus got revealed as early as he did, is because he ultimately isn't the final villain. It's going to end up being Talia at the end. I think so too. I was like, she's the villain. That's it. Yep. I agree with you 100%. So cool. Awesome. Well, I'm really enjoying where our 3 shows are going with this season. It's been a great season all around for us. There's been a few skips and bumps, but all in all, their shows are doing well.
Yep. Great stuff all around. I'm super excited.
Yeah. Well, as for our show, we got 3 episodes left, Harley.
3 episodes, and that's it.
Yeah. So, what are they going to do with our legends? Are we going to say goodbye to Vixen before the season's out? Or is the Legion of Doom going to get the spear? Is our team going to get the spear? Is there going to be a big battle? 2 pieces against 2 pieces? Who can rewrite reality faster?
1 spear to rule them all.
Yes. Fellowship of the Spear. Oh, man. Cool. Well, I hope everyone is just as excited as us, and they're planning on sticking around, because I'm sure gonna. This is The Flash, signing out.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
Hey, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. Daylight come and me wanna go home. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. Daylight come and me wanna go home. Lift 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot, punch.
Nice voice, Professor.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network. Find our podcast in iTunes. You can leave us a rating and review. We'd love that. As well, we can now be found in Google Play Music.